and welcome to Screen Vomit, the only movie podcast for normal people. I'm, of course, your host, Kayla, and here with me is my twin, my co-host, and self-identified himbo, Collie J.
Hello, ladies and germs. Hello.
And also with us today, wow, we have a freaking guest. This is cool.
Yeah.
Let's see. Our guest today runs a record label called Have Fun Records, which is cool. I have a song on one of their comps. They also put out one of my fave albums of all time. That would be my friend Zack Parr.
Hello.
Woo!
I'm here.
Hell yeah. Zack here is a freaking Godzilla expert, so this is a great ep to have him on. So this is going to be so fun.
I feel like I worked hard for that title.
Yeah? You think so?
It's my live the brand moment.
How many hours you put into, just guesstimate, how many hours of Godzilla have you watched?
I don't know if you can Man, that's going to sound like really nerdy. I'm sorry. Probably like maybe years. I don't know. But
Years worth of hours of Godzilla?
My youth was defined with these bootleg VHSs my uncle cut together of Godzilla movies. And like normal
so
kids
cool.
grew up on Sesame Street, which I did. But most of the time it was early 60s, 70s Godzilla movies, like the campy Super Godzilla movies.
Yeah.
The 90s movies. Godzilla 1998, the masterpiece it is. Oh, I'm sorry.
With certified himbo brother Matthew Broderick.
The king. He's
Hell
the only
yeah.
one that came out of that movie that said he liked it because he made a lot of money off of it.
Zachy was just telling us that he is considering starting his own podcast in defense of Godzilla 1998.
I have the notes. I have the trivia.
I would love to hear a defense of it. Actually, I'd love to watch it again.
If you ever do
Okay,
that,
watch party.
I would have picked that, but it didn't fall into the stipulations of the podcast.
Right.
But if you ever do that one, I can touch on some nice trivia facts if you want.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Maybe we can do a watch party one day.
Okay.
Oh, for sure.
That could be fun, right?
I would actually really enjoy that. I need that movie updated for me. It's painted with rose-colored lenses because I watched it when I was in like 8 years old or something, maybe younger, probably like 6.
You must have been a baby.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because 98, I was 6 years old.
Yeah.
So I was 5 or 6 years old, and I loved it.
I'll never
I thought it was
forget
the
the Green Day
coolest
song
thing.
with the Godzilla noises in it.
With the gods, it's a better version of Brain Stew.
It is.
Because Brain Stew rules as a song, but like to have Godzilla like roaring in the background while they're just rocking out.
That's real rock and roll.
It also had the
Yeah.
contribution of that Jimmy Page P. Diddy song, I believe it was, which was a mainstay in late 90s culture for a long time.
Hell yeah.
I love that movie, but we're not here to talk about that movie.
We are not.
We're not. We're here to talk about the 2016 movie Shin Godzilla. And Zach picked this, obviously. I had never even heard of it.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Well, I'm glad to showcase this beautiful masterpiece that I actually do mean a masterpiece, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll get
my
into
God.
it.
Yes, we will.
Yeah, we will. Because I would say I'm not typically like a huge fan of like monster movies, I would say.
Sure.
I've seen many.
I'm not
but
offended.
I'm not. It's not typically my thing, but I gotta say this movie rocked. So I'm excited to talk about it when we get to it.
Yes. This is, I feel, a trite question, but if you had to, just right now, where you are right now, what would be your favorite Godzilla movie?
Right now, for the longest time, I never thought like the original Japanese 1954 movie would like be beat just because of like all the like undertones and what it brought and what it like inspired and stuff.
Yeah.
But Shin Godzilla has definitely like achieved that magnum opus Godzilla film to me. Like it hit every note it needed to hit. It featured a lot of like great undertones, and it has a really, to me, probably one of the best Godzilla designs of all time, even though that's probably like one of the most divisive comments, just because people do not like certain features. But
This is a badass Godzilla.
Yeah.
I agree. This is tight Godzilla design.
But this Godzilla is based off of the original Godzilla, right? From like the 1950s or whatever?
Somewhat, yes.
The design of him, at least.
Yeah. The first Godzilla, 1954 Godzilla, was supposed to be based off of nuclear burns. Like, the film was in direct response to, like, the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they wanted to, with that 54 Godzilla, mimic, like, the radiation burns. And his body structure is supposed to be reminiscent of a mushroom cloud. There's, like, this opening shot in the 54 movie where his head peers up, and it's supposed to be the same semblance of, like, a mushroom cloud, which is pretty sweet. So with this new movie, Shin Godzilla, his skin, instead of being, like, monster or, like, reptilian-like or, like, scaly, it's supposed to be rubbery, like, harsh, a little bit more reminiscent of, like, that nuclear scar skin. So, which is, like, really neat.
Yeah.
Yo, this is going to be fun.
I'm ready to bring the facts.
My friend Zach is a genius. All right, before we get to getting too far into the movie, because I fear that we're going to do that if we keep talking.
Yeah, we got to knock out
the up top stuff.
Yep.
There's just a couple actor credits that I want to bring in because, you know, this is a Japanese movie. Most of the people in it are just in Japanese stuff that your average our listener will not have heard of. So we got a famous director, though. And Zach, do you know how to say his name?
Yeah, sure. I can take it's
Go for it.
co-directed by both Hideki Anno and Shinji Higuchi.
Yeah.
Hideki Anno being the mad scientist behind my favorite anime of all time, Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Yeah.
And then Shinji Higuchi directed the more recent Attack on Titan live-action films, but he's mostly known as like a special effects artist who did like the early 90s Gamera movies, which Gamera the Flying Turtle, if you're not familiar. Those are really amazing films too. But when I first heard these two were like in charge of directing this, it was like Zach's fantasy booking Godzilla film. It's like when I heard Hideki Anno was attached, I was like kind of crying, but it's okay.
Aw. Hell yeah, that rocks. And then we have Ren Asugi, who plays the initial prime minister. He was in The Audition, which is like a famous cult horror film.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then Jun Kunimura is in Kill Bill.
Whoa.
And that's all the credits that I have.
I know most of the cast were carryovers with Shinji Higuchi from the Attack on Titan film, which was pretty cool. That he had like some like following from doing those films into this one. The Attack on Titan films aren't good. I'll say that.
I never heard of it.
Yep, me neither.
Yeah, we'll just retcon that out of the conversation. We'll just talk about this movie.
No, that's cool. I'm sure that we have some nerd listeners too. Actually, I'm certain of it because I know some of our listeners.
Wait. We still have like more jocks that listen than nerds, right? That's not a problem, right?
We've cornered the market on nerds with huge muscles. So
The lowest listened podcast because of Nerd Talk. Us weebs got to stand together.
Yeah.
all right, so for the critic scores, Collie, tell us what the critic scores are.
Yeah, I got you for you. So Rotten Tomatoes, we got 86%.
Okay.
And on Metacritic, we got 67 out of 100. And Google user, we got right in between them, we got 88. Right, not in between. Bleep. I know numbers. 88 is more than 86. Google user has an 88.
Yay.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Christ. Just completely tripped over my stupid...
Me and Collie, turns out, are both brain dead, so thank God we at least have one genius on the pod this week.
Yeah.
This is the most amount of like compliments to my intellect that I've ever received.
Well, we're so happy that you're here to save us.
Yes.
Simply save our podcast. So generally, we usually watch the trailer at this point, but the trailer for this movie is all music. So there's no words to it. So the audio, it being in here, not going to do anybody any good. So how about instead, I have a plot summary. Zach, do you want to read it?
Sure.
Okay, I'm putting it in the chat. Zach's going to read a plot summary.
Hell yeah.
When a massive guild monster emerges from the deep and tears through the city, the government scrambles to save its citizens. A ragtag team of volunteers cut through a web of red tape to uncover the monster's weakness and its mysterious ties to a foreign superpower. Wonder who that is. But time is not on their side. The greatest catastrophe to ever befall the world is about to evolve right before their very eyes. Dun dun. Did that work?
Oh my god, that was incredible.
That was better than yeah.
Okay.
I expected just when a magical monster. Yeah, no, you gave it spirit.
I'm bringing life into this plot
gosh.
summary.
Please hire Zach to do VO work.
The dream during COVID-19.
Yeah.
If only.
Hire me too. While you're at it.
Bring us all on board.
Yeah, hell yeah. Wow, that was so great. I'm brain dead again.
But like, this movie is my favorite kind of movie to do in this pod because there's so much there. There's so much fucking going on in this movie, and it's all done so fucking well. Some of the the critiques I read, they exclusively from Western sources, were just like, this movie's too convoluted and it's too choppy, but also like the scenes are slow and long. And
disagree.
Disagree. Everything is.
People call it
intentional.
Boardroom the movie or meeting room the movie.
Yes,
which I don't understand.
Those people clearly did not get it.
Yeah.
That's just that. Yeah.
No, the themes of this movie are so well, like, it does. I'm not trying to like toot my own horn that like, yeah, we all get, or toot our collective horn that like, yeah, we fucking get what it's about.
We're smart movie geniuses.
Yeah, like I think if you don't get it, you don't think critically, naturally. I think you.
Well, even like, I mean, because you typically don't think critically about movies, and you still get it.
Yeah, if the subtext is pretty hidden, I'm not gonna get it. Mm-hmm. But if you tell me about it, then I'll understand it. But because I'm smart, but not smart at perceiving things.
I think another reason why like Western audience don't get it is it's very much like a Japanese film, and not just saying because it's based in Japanese, but it dealt with like a lot of the undertones in it is influenced about like Japanese events and history. Right.
But it's still not like, you don't have to fucking visit the museum in Hiroshima to understand how those bombings have affected Japan's history.
For sure.
I feel like that's pretty. I'm not trying here to like. I don't think American education is great, but like you learn that. You learn that it was like a pretty morally mixed bag of shit dropping the bombs, and that it left a huge hole in Japan. It decimated Japan at the time. You have to have a certain degree of empathy, I think, too, because you can see these actors do a great job of displaying the kind of like the fear they have of nuclear. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what that means to them.
I don't want to like jump too far ahead, but I feel like in the older characters, especially in the movie that were around during post-war Japan and World War II, that are now in charge of like the cabinet and stuff, you see it in their eyes when they brought up the option of nuclear weapons again, and like they're visibly shaking, saying, "I don't want to be around when a third bomb hits our country." Not to like that. I mean, that's probably one of the heaviest scenes in like. I mean, in general, but in like Godzilla history, I mean, I remember watching and going like, "Holy moly!" They're not like pulling any punches; they're going like full force with this.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, this movie definitely had some things to say about history and the way governments deal with things, for sure.
Which is wild to think for like a Godzilla movie, you know. But this is why I love this like franchise. Like there's a little bit of like everything for everybody. I mean, most of it's honestly giant monster action movie, but like the few films that really do touch on like the political and like socio-economic parts of the like Japan and stuff, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Totally. It's incredible, and the way I've been like elevator pitching it to friends is just like
Colin's been telling everybody to watch this movie.
This movie blew my fucking mind.
That warms my heart so much.
Colin's tweeting celebs to watch this movie.
I was so nervous when I recommended it because like I'm so passionate about this movie, and I'm like,
it's incredible. Yes,
I am so happy right now.
But It's what would happen if Godzilla happened today. Nothing would happen because the way political processes work right now is it's all red tape. And they even pointed out in the movie, the people who are created the red tape are like, well, this is just the way it is. We can't do anything about a giant monster because we have to go through X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Can I touch on some Godzilla history just because, like, I feel like it's needed for the rest of the pod, too? It's like, I've been chopping on the bit for it. So, the original Godzilla
the
film...
voice bursting at the seams.
I know, I'm like, I need to say it. The original Godzilla film came out in 1954, 9 or so years after the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs hit Japan. So, after that time, there was a set of restrictions, because like America was helping Japan rebuild during that time, a set of restrictions that America put on like Japanese arts and that such of that nature where they couldn't like critique America's usage of the atomic bombs during the war, during the rebuilding phase. So right after those restrictions ended, Toho made Godzilla.
The production company,
the production company. Directed by, I think it's Ishiro Honda. Whatever. I'm probably going to get scathed for that for being a Godzilla nerd, but whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So
we can't be held accountable for pronunciations of non-English words.
Yeah,
in
also, in
names.
general, don't tell us when we're wrong.
Yeah.
True.
Look, many have tried to cancel us and none have succeeded, so...
Guess again, nerds. So the original 54 film was very much Godzilla was the personification of nuclear weaponry in Japan, causing destruction, mass deaths, pretty much how Japan would rise up afterwards by defeating Godzilla and rebuild kind of thing.
So it was just like a full metaphor.
Exactly. However, when Godzilla came to the United States in 56, America saw that film and said, wait, we can't have a movie coming to the States that critiqued ourselves. So they cut out a large portion of the really, like, there's a scene where a mother's holding her child and telling her child to embrace death because we're going to meet her father soon, which was like a heavy scene. They instead cut all these like heavy scenes with Raymond Burr, who was an actor during the time, and made this monster flick instead of like this like allegory, I guess. And whereas like the 54 film was like lauded in Japan, and we never even saw that film until way later when the Criterion Collection released it in the, I think, mid to late 2010s, which is wild to me. The only way you could see it was like through bootleg.
Wow.
And that fact alone was like crazy. But the Godzilla franchise that most Americans were conditioned to was that 56 Raymond Burr film for 50 plus years, which is like wild.
Yeah. Is that one called like King of Monsters?
Yeah, Godzilla King of the Monsters. It was critically panned. It did really well. But people generally just thought it was just like another dumb monster movie.
Yeah, I've watched that and I hate it.
Thank you. And everything else that followed that, Toho was like, you can't really like keep touching on the same political tones, I guess, throughout the like franchise. So they just made Godzilla Raids Again was the next film in 56 in Japan. That was just a giant monster movie. And then from then on, you got King Kong versus Godzilla and 30 plus other Godzilla movies that were just like dumb action, I guess. So Shin Godzilla, that movie was coming off of Japan experienced that crazy like tsunami that did a lot of damage to Japan and that nuclear leak.
The nuclear reactor.
Yeah, where they had
the Fukushima disaster.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Awesome.
I did some research, but I am no genius.
This rules.
So Shin Godzilla, there was during that disaster, like old people or the older generation would sacrifice themselves by like exposing themselves for the radiation because Japan was taking too long finding a suitable action plan to combat like the radiation leak, the destruction that caused, which you see at the beginning of the movie, where you see Godzilla destroying the cities, destroying these towns, subsequently killing people, and Japan is doing board meeting after like meeting room.
Right.
And the beginning of the film is very much like, this is how old Japan handles a crisis, and they're not doing a great job and people are dying. So it's crazy, like the 54 film was this...
it came back around.
Yeah, it's...
Yeah.
Hell
this
yeah.
is the 54 film, and crazy enough, the Shin Godzilla film are the only two true original Godzilla movies. Everything else is like a sequel, which is weird. All the movies like before Shin Godzilla were like, they reference like the 54 film a lot, and they say like the original Godzilla in 54 died, but there's a son or something like that. So fun facts.
Whew. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Wow. Yeah, so this movie has a lot of kind of commentary or metaphor for that 3/11 Fukushima disaster.
Mm-hmm.
And, hints of the nuclear bombings before as well. And it's really cool.
It's strange to think too, because like everybody's like preconceived notion with Godzilla films. I don't know if it was yours going into it, but it's like saddle me up for some good old giant monster fun, But like,
so I actually I watched the trailer for this before even picking it, I guess. But just watching the trailer alone, even though, as I said before, there's no speaking in the trailer. It's all music and just like, you're watching some things happen. But I could tell the style of it was so interesting to me and like looked so cool that it instantly drew me in. And I didn't think it was going to just be like The Meg or some other monster movie.
I feel like the trailer music and the soundtrack alone, like Hideki Anno has like a very...
The soundtrack, yes.
He always makes like the most of like the music in film, and even in his like anime show he did. But like that soundtrack, it's like...
Some of the soundtrack is the original recordings from the 1954 Godzilla.
Yep. They recycled a lot of like the sound effects for like Godzilla's roar.
Damn.
It even followed, this is strange too, like when he was in his like baby googly-eyed form.
Yes.
It used the 54 roar, but when he like, by the end of the film, not to spoil anything, but his last roar was from Return of Godzilla 1985.
Wow.
It's like a cool like homage throughout the film. So if you're a big Godzilla nerd, you're like, oh, neat.
If you're a big Godzilla nerd, this seems like the movie for you. And it is.
Which is strange because this is, besides like Godzilla 1998, this is one of the most divisive Godzilla movies out there. Like a lot of, I won't say a lot, but like some of like the Godzilla fans absolutely like hate the design.
Poo-poo.
Because they're used to buff Godzilla, like scaly kick monster butt Godzilla, not like...
Yeah, Godzilla with a thick ass.
Exactly, and tiny hands.
Thick ass and tiny arms.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like they always like... They don't like his scrawny arms, his googly eyes, but I feel like...
I loved it.
Those features alone, like when you first see Godzilla, I remember seeing it in the theater and people laughed because like... You would laugh too because like in real life, you're like, oh, he's cute. He's not menacing or anything like that. He's just got big old googly eyes. And then throughout the film, those eyes become more and more menacing until you see what he's capable of, which is like...
And so do his arms.
Yes, so he grew arms.
Totally. It's disarming.
Yeah.
I laughed a lot during the first part of the movie.
Yeah.
At these googly eyes, just like...
It's hard to take it seriously.
I didn't think it was Godzilla. Because Lindsay was like bopping in and out, and she was like, "Oh, well, is this not a Godzilla movie?" And she was like, "Is that Godzilla?" I was like, "That's not Godzilla." I was like, "That might be like a monster that Godzilla's gonna fight." Because I didn't watch the trailer, I had no idea what I was coming into. And then as it progressed, the googly eyes become disconcerting because you start seeing how much damage it's doing, and destruction it's causing. It's kind of haunting.
One cool feature that I just kind of like noticed now too, like looking at how his hands are always positioned in like an upwards, like a holy kind of thing. Like it's like twisted upwards and his hands are like always in that position.
Yeah.
Like Shin in Japanese means like a couple different things, but it means like new and God. So it's like his like incarnation supposed to be like God of destruction, which is, I don't know, I never really noticed that before, but it's like a cool little Easter egg, I guess.
Hell yeah. So should we should go through this. Yeah. We've kind of bumped around a little bit over a few things. I do want to say more on the style of this movie. I guess that can be our beginning. I love the style. I already said it, but I think the style is so cool. The way they work the camera in this movie is so cool. It keeps everything really interesting. The director told the actors to speak faster than usual so that they would resemble actual politicians and bureaucrats, referencing the social network using the social network as a reference point. And saying that he would cut the take if they spoke too slow. So big Jesse Eisenberg vibes.
The Zuck strikes again.
But it was like, I had to actually like stop and rewind this movie so many times. It probably took me 6 hours to watch this movie because...
Oh, you went that way?
Well, there was just... First of all, I'm taking notes while I'm watching it because I know we're going to do it for the pod. So there is a little bit of it's on me. But there's just like so much happening all the time. Everybody's talking really fast, and I don't know if this is how it is on every format, but at least like how I watched it, there sometimes is text like all over the screen.
Yep.
So like
every single character is like identified with a text.
Right, and they don't necessarily need to be.
Yeah.
Not all of them.
It's very synonymous with Hideki Anno's like creative style, I guess, because throughout Evangelion as well, you see flashes of characters and like hidden meanings and stuff like that he just like puts there as like a little puff, I guess.
I loved it.
It is really cool, but after a while I was like, I actually can just not read
the
the character description
matter.
because it doesn't really like, it's not really adding anything, and it is taking me a lot longer to try and figure out everything.
I think it absolutely added something to this story. This movie gave me strong leftist vibes, politically.
Yes,
for sure.
Yes.
Basically, what I was seeing, and especially with adding every single person in government's title, it showed how fucking useless they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what do these people actually do? A crisis is happening. What are they doing?
Right.
And they're offering nothing. They're offering things to get stuck on. They're causing gridlock and being stymied.
Yeah.
So these titles are bullshit.
Yeah, you're right.
There's a lot of especially the title, but there's a lot of like added humor, I guess. The main character throughout the film, he gets these new titles and they get longer and longer and longer and longer to the point where they almost take up a quarter of the screen because he's like the head of some new committee that just got implemented.
Yeah,
totally.
Right.
That's like when you watch it back, you're like, oh, this is kind of funny. That each time he's reintroduced, it's just a new title.
I'm sure, I've watched a lot of foreign language films, and this isn't always true. Shut up. This isn't always true, but I think really is true for this movie that I wish I spoke Japanese so bad to watch this movie. Like,
totally.
I just feel like there's so much even more that we could still get out of this movie, like if I spoke the native language of it.
I've watched this like dozens of times, and I was afraid at first because when I first watched it, I was in awe, and I felt like after every rewatch, it would get like less rose tinted, I guess, or less like magical. But each time I watched it, there's like something new, which is like, I guess, unique to Godzilla movies because like there's not too much layering, I guess, it comes to Godzilla movies.
Yeah.
But with this one, like,
you probably catch something new every time.
Yeah, I don't want to like spoil it, but like one of the newer prime ministers comes into power. I didn't know he was just like some random guy who was the head of an agriculture committee that was only
hilarious.
He was only in office because like some seniority thing or something. It was funny.
That I died at that. So funny.
So we kind of start with, we're in Tokyo and there's like an empty boat floating in the water and there's a big explosion. And at first we don't know what the explosion is caused by. So there's a lot of, we've kind of mentioned it a little bit, but this movie's kind of mostly like you're watching how the government is handling whatever's going on. So we're inside of like boardrooms, office rooms, whatever. And then there's cuts in of what's happening outside. And they're kind of two different worlds, but they're obviously the same place. Just the government people are like so cut off from like what normal people are
totally
going
detached.
through. Yeah.
One thing I want to touch on with the boat scene too. When they start in the boat scene, they don't touch on who's in the boat, but they do have some like, I guess, an Easter egg of sorts. The first thing you see is shoes nicely set on like the floor of the boat or the yacht or whatever. Apparently that's, I could be wrong, but what I read is like that's like something Japanese people do before they kill themselves.
Oh, wow.
Is that like before they do that, they take off their shoes, because I don't know if it's some connecting to the real world kind of thing or some unfortunate tradition, but that's why that was added in there. And they the origami piece on the table too, which ended up being super important at the end of the film, which I thought, like, rewatching it, I'm like, oh neat, that's crazy.
I'm certain that you will have caught so many more things than me, because like I said,
well, I mean, I've seen this so many times.
You've seen it so many times, but also I was rewinding and playing again and rewinding and playing again and still feel like I missed so much.
Talking about the politicians too, like how every important like moment happens throughout the beginning of the film, like they discover something new, they're like, let's go to the prime minister's office and discuss it there. Okay, we'll move into a press meeting and discuss it there. And it's like,
Right. It's so funny. It's so funny, like all the channels that they have to go through to even do like the most mundane of decisions.
I was just dying.
It's hilarious.
It's crazy too. A lot of like political commentary is happening early on as well. Like the main character, he raises his voice at the very beginning of the meeting, and as they walk out, his like mentor says, "Remind yourself who brought you here," kind of thing, and not to like step on toes. And it's like, geez, like if we would have listened to this guy at the beginning, much like other movies, of course it'd be a lot shorter, but it's like a very good harken back to like most political atmospheres, probably in the U.S. as well, of course.
Yeah,
because there's just the one guy who's like, I think it's like a sea creature. Right?
Yeah. The guy who throughout the movie is like comically just saying the right thing or stumbles into the
loved
answer.
The guy.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a delight.
He was great. I don't know what his name is.
I honestly don't remember.
Character or actor, but if you watch the movie, you know who we're talking about.
He's the lead guy who gets bopped around to 100 different positions, and he really ends up relying on that team later. He's kind of a himbo.
No, he's smart. He's smart genius.
He is a smart genius. I'm joking. He's too smart. Get out of here.
You want to know how I remember his name off topic? So
Go
the main
ahead.
character's name is Yaguchi, and the only reason why I remember it is because of Taguchi from New Japan. Mm-hmm. That's the only reason why I remember.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
There's a little wrestling shoehorned in there for you.
Yeah. Pro wrestling for those of us who aren't wrestling peoples.
I have to appeal to the Jocks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A reference for the Jocks out there.
Yeah.
Oh, also the first day that the people encounter the monster is November 3rd, which is the same day as the original release date for the first 1954 Godzilla movie. So there's your first little homage.
I did not know that.
The original.
That is pretty crazy.
Yeah. So at first, we don't see the monster actually for a long time. We see like pieces of him. So we'll see like a little whip of the tail. We'll see like a little whatever, a foot or something. But we don't see the full guy for a while. And I thought that was kind of a cool thing to do. When the monster finally shows himself, they have to then decide, do they want to kill him or capture him? And just like we said, like they are going through so much red tape of like, what do we do? I don't know. Should we ground the flights? Oh, we're not grounding the flights. Should we evacuate? Oh, we don't want to evacuate or whatever. Yeah. And they're having to run decisions through like all these channels. And meanwhile, like whenever you cut to the outside world, like this monster is just like slamming through the streets. Like people are running.
Hilariously. Yeah. This first monster just walks like a slug. It's like the path of a slug.
13 kilometers per hour. I don't know how fast that is.
Oh, yeah. We don't talk that language here.
8 miles per hour. There you go. Sorry.
So there's 5 forms of Godzilla in this film, and it's like the only Godzilla film to ever feature the creature evolve on screen, besides like a normal baby form, like baby Godzilla and regular Godzilla. So the first form is just the tail you see whipping out. Apparently that's a first form.
Oh, okay.
And no concept art was ever like released for that, so even the directors are keeping that secret. And then you have the second form, which is Mr. Googly Eyes.
Hilarious.
Japan loved that form so much they called him Kamada-kun, which Kamada is where Godzilla first touched down in the Kamada district in Japan, which is a little fun fact. And then you have his third form, which is where he stands upright with his little baby arms. Or little stupples or whatever.
Yeah.
My man's got the hands like the Scary Movie guy, right?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
From Scary Movie too.
Y'all know what I'm talking about.
Incredible. When he cuts the turkey. Yep.
I'm hoping for like a Photoshop edit of Godzilla's head on his body now.
Hell yeah.
Another funny scene, even though I guess it's not quite funny, but it's more about like the political aspect of it. But when Godzilla's upright now and he's met with like these military choppers, for them to even fire bullets at Godzilla, it's like a like phone tag. Like it goes from the prime minister to
Right,
the general
yeah.
to like the generals on the whatever military ranks go.
Even once it gets in the boardroom, it's like somebody has to ask like the person sitting next to them, and then she has to ask the person at the end of the table.
And that happens a lot, and it's almost comical.
It's
it
so
is
good.
funny.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great bit.
It's the whole movie they do that bit.
Yeah.
But throughout most of the movie, they do it in like... The thing is, it's hilarious at the start, but then once you start seeing, like, they start showing more and more how much destruction has been done, and you start to get this, like, dread and this severe sadness about, like, the ineffectiveness of all of it. Like, for some reason, they have the power, they have the most likelihood to stop this creature, rather than collectively everyone unifying against it, right? But they're bad at it.
Terribly bad.
Like,
Yeah.
this is when we need them most, and they're bad at it, and it's funny, but then you realize that
People in the government are sitting in rooms deciding and waiting for things to be approved while people of the cities are literally dying. The cities are being destroyed. Their people are becoming homeless, jobless. The economy is suffering.
oh wow,
and
2020
they're doing
much?
nothing. Yeah.
I felt
Sound familiar?
for the craziest part too, which is probably maybe unrealistic in government terms, but maybe for Japan it might be different. But they halted the attack on Godzilla because of one person crossing the railroad tracks that hasn't been evacuated yet.
I was like,
They make such a big deal over how they want zero casualties.
Oh, I know.
But meanwhile, Godzilla has been romping through the streets while they can't decide what to do. Probably
I love it.
thousands have died.
I love it.
They've talked
It's-
about
yeah.
like the injuries and like damage it caused too, but like that one person, I guess Godzilla's fine killing people, but when the government has to do it, they want to keep it to as close to zero as possible, I guess.
It was refreshing to hear government officials against murdering their own citizens.
I think they made it, if I remember it, they made it sound like they don't want any of the regular citizens to die because that will like come back against the government somehow,
Exactly,
or like they
yeah.
won't get re-voted or something.
No, totally.
Reelected, I mean. And yeah, just like the like wild dichotomy between what's happening inside the offices versus what's happening in the world just continues to be like so funny and so disconnected. They do end up doing a citywide evacuation, and this was like a great cut where they're like, oh, we'll do everything we can to control the traffic, and then it's like instantly cut to all the traffic signals are out, and like people are just having to abandon their cars in the street and go out on foot because there's so much traffic.
It's hilarious smash cuts to
It
them.
is.
Like,
Yeah. It's incredible. And so they end up asking the US to help them kill the monster because none of their bullets or anything are even, they're not doing anything to Godzilla, right?
That's when he's in his fourth form, right? Where he has his black skin and stuff. He's like, got his more... Because before that part was, there's like... Godzilla returns to the sea to quote-unquote cool off.
yeah.
So there was like that whole period where like the science part is still being stymied by the government, where they're trying to figure out how to actually like defeat Godzilla. So they create this like side science group of like where they say rejects and lone wolves and all this other stuff of like
The nerds.
yeah, and it's crazy because they reintroduce I forgot her name, but they reintroduce a scientist where she immediately knows like certain aspects of the creature where the government was like clueless for the longest time, and
Yeah.
they put together this group, but they're kind of like the side group, and then the government's trying to do its thing through the military, where obviously when he shows up again and the military attacks, like literally nothing's working, like like tanks, ammunition, missiles, the works. Like his skin is like, you hear just like the clinking of like against the skin where they have like
Yeah.
no effect. And I just think that's like a really cool, like if you follow Godzilla's trajectory as far as like evolution goes, like when he was met with those choppers, he could have easily been killed because he hasn't evolved to the part where he can handle the ammunition. But now,
Yeah.
where he's in this like new phase, he's like literally in his name, like a god of destruction. He's just walking through and nothing phases him. He's like a true gangsta. You know what I mean? Godzilla, true gangsta.
Yeah. I also think it's incredible that the way that the US plays into the movie is like who has bombs and knows how to kill things the best.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's call America.
their characterization of America is
accurate.
Yeah, it's spot on. It's like it's big dumb jocks with guns and bombs.
100%. And
like,
unfortunate but true.
And when you brought in America, what happened?
Oh my god!
It might have worked for a little bit, but it queued up one of probably the best Godzilla scenes of all time.
The bombing scene.
Yeah.
Is this he's in stage 3 then?
4.
When they're shooting at him, they're bombing him like that.
He'll be in stage 4, not to be critical or anything, but
no.
Yeah.
Please be critical because this scene is wild because
Colin's not afraid to be wrong.
No, I'm always wrong.
I just don't want to be that nerd that's like, yeah, it's actually stage 4 to be concise.
Hell yeah.
No, that's why you're here.
Godzilla is like approaching Tokyo City proper.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is like Japan, the government's final like big push. We're going to stop him here or else we call it America. Mm-hmm. And they throw just like comical amount of rockets and tanks and missiles, just tons of stuff. And they pause Godzilla sometimes, but not much. That's when the U.S. bring in
B-2 bombers, those stealth planes.
Yeah, or Japan, admits America help us, and you immediately see a B-2 bomber. They drop big old bombs on it.
So this is probably like one of my favorite moments in Godzilla of all time.
This rules.
Yeah, because this is where they cue up this like, I don't want to say angelic music, but like you realize like something bad is going to happen just from the music alone.
Yeah.
And there's so much to unpack with the scene. So I'm sorry if I go long, but you see like it's like that moment where it's weird that you can look at Godzilla and see like anger kind of thing, like or a change of emotion where like he's obviously like pissed.
The whole movie changes emotion like once those missiles get inside the man.
Once Godzilla gets pissed, everything changes.
Yeah. So like I remember watching this in theaters when the first time it came to America, and I watched it with some friends, and they never showed what his like quote unquote atomic breath looked like in trailers or anything. But I remember his like jaw opens up and then it opens up again, like unhinges. And I remember when I first saw that, I was like, this is insane.
It's like similar to Predator in that the bottom jaw splits in two.
And that was crazy. And then immediately, like they put a science behind the atomic breath. Like it starts with a black plume that engulfs the entire city. And then he ignites the plume, which ignites the entire city. And then he like gets forced out more through like this ultrasonic beam. That's like a high-pitched beam, which is reminiscent of the older Godzilla movies too. Fun fact. But
it like cuts buildings in half.
Which when I saw that, I was like in awe. Because like that's like destruction at max kind of thing. Of course, he has like his fire breath and it blows buildings up. But this thing is like cuts down cities in like seconds.
Yeah.
But this was like another point where you follow the Godzilla's evolution. The B-2 bombers are coming around again. And he evolves so quickly that he develops a radar, which they touch on later in the movie, where he's able to detect. So he closes his mouth and he just like flexes or something. And like these beams come out of his back, which is obviously never been done. But when that happened, I grabbed my friend's like knee and like excitement. I'm like, no way they're doing this, like no way they're like doing something different, I guess. And like,
I was blown away.
I was in awe because like he would just like shimmy his back to cut down like the missiles that were going to about to hit him again, and he cuts down the B-2 bombers. And like Japan and probably America too are at this moment where like, wow, like literally nothing is going to stop him. And oh my, he like I'm at a loss for words.
No, it is truly, it's a scene that does leave you in awe because up to this point, I mean like. Godzilla is up to the B-2 bombers, does not acknowledge anything.
Right, like, we're like ants.
Yeah, like walked over, like in the very first form, one of the funniest things is that it's walking flat on the ground and it approaches a building and it just like tries to walk over the building and ends up knocking it over. Like doesn't acknowledge any obstacles in its way.
Yeah.
Until it gets pissed off. And the whole... Kayla, you mentioned this earlier, the tone of the entire movie changes.
Mm-hmm. And with the music swelling up, like with that soundtrack, those recordings that are like, it's like dramatic, orchestral with like a little bit of like a chorus going.
It's like dread you know, in like musical tone.
It's a perfectly done scene.
It's incredible. Yeah.
And within that scene too, like the entire Japanese cabinet with the prime minister and all these important people, in just like 3 brief seconds, a laser cuts down their helicopter as they leave, and they're all dead. Like all the old guard of Japan is gone within like a blink of an eye.
They had just evacuated.
Yeah, and all that's left is like this new, I guess, quote unquote guard, besides like some stragglers, I guess, which is like, I don't know, really crazy how they just like, what, they didn't make it dramatic. It's just like they made it real, I guess.
Yeah.
Totally.
They have the little speech to address it. It's like, you know, look, a lot of us didn't make it out, but the rest of us are here, and we gotta, you know, do what we gotta do at this moment. We can't be sad, basically.
Yeah, like there's a crisis in Japan, and this is our first time where we can proactively do something about it, which, as far as like the government's concerned, is a huge shift in how they operate. Kind of in a depressing way too, which I'm sure we'll touch on. But the last thing I want to say is like the end of that scene like has one of the, in my opinion, like one of the best like shots of like Godzilla kind of like walking away from the city with the entire city, barely any buildings standing, but just engulfed in like flames. And I know that's like an homage to like Hideki Anno's like anime. Like in the end of the first episode of Evangelion, Eva Unit 1 walks away from a city where his robot unit went psycho, and all that's left is like flames. So I was like, as a fan of that and Godzilla, needless to say, I was completely geeked out. I was like, my jaw was open.
Aww.
I remember at that point too, I just want to touch on when I was in theater.
Yeah.
That was a tone shift in the audience as well. Because at the beginning, just a lot of laughter, joking around, you know. But when that scene happened, I could see like kids and like...
I felt sad for Godzilla.
Yeah. I mean, justifiably pissed, you know. But
yeah.
I was really shocked because, yeah, you do view... If you're empathetic enough, you do just view Godzilla kind of as like a... something you can't really be mad at it. I compared it like... They compared Godzilla to like an act of nature in the movie, and I told Lindsay, I was like, I feel like Godzilla's like a hurricane. Like, you can't really be mad at a hurricane. It just is. I wasn't mad at Godzilla, and I felt bad for him, but then you also simultaneously are like, you see the city on fire, and you inevitably think about like all of the death.
But my man's just trying to live his life.
I know.
He doesn't know where to go. He's a wild animal lost in the city.
What's crazy too is it's one of those moments where he didn't, it's weird to say, but wasn't asked to be created. It was created by the act of somebody else. And he just exists.
Relatable.
Or he just coexists with mankind as best as he can. And he's met with like, not to say he's going to turn into like a good guy, you know, he's like a new species rummaging around through like Tokyo, but this is how he reacts to being, I guess, a tourist. Yeah,
Provoked.
Exactly.
Woo, so heavy part of the movie.
Yeah.
And after this, he's taking a little nap for a while.
A little snooze.
He just goes dormant.
Yeah, and like the nerd team is sending blood samples everywhere, trying to figure out like how they can murder this animal.
Yeah. And this is like a split within the government where what's left of the old guard, that old agriculture leader, is now like the temporary prime minister.
Hilarious.
And he gives up. All the old guard gives up and is like, we need America to do what needs to be done. Or America decides for them, I think. They're like, this is now, we have an agreement with each other, and this is now becoming more of a threat to us. So we need to act on it, and we're going to drop the nuclear bomb. And Japan, instead of like fighting for themselves, is more like, well, we can't do anything. And this is where you hit like the heavy scenes where it's like, as much as they are not acting on it, they don't want to see another nuclear bomb hit Japan for the third time. And it's
right. You can just tell like the shift when even like nuclear bomb is like mentioned, just the heaviness that weighs on these people. It's intense.
And it's another generational thing with Japan where on the other side of the coin you have these young like youth scientists retroactively like trying to figure out a way to make Japan like proactive in this, and they haven't been heard this entire time. They like have been doing things themselves, and as right when they hear this, they're like, tell America to give us like 48 more hours and we'll have it solved. And they are going above and beyond without like any meetings or any sort of like red tape. They just immediately are.
Well, at first the timeline is they think the monster's going to move again in 15 days. So they set the time for, okay, in 15 days we're nuking this man. So like if you can come up with something before then okay, but if not, this man's getting nuked.
For sure. A lot of people feel there's a character that got, I don't want to say she was shoehorned, but I feel like she was a great addition because I think she was like a badass character. Sorry to swear. But she was a Japanese...
You can swear.
Whatever. There's that Japanese American ambassador who comes into it.
She rocks.
She comes in and she was like...
My man got worked up.
She like took action like immediately with that group. And it was like, I guess... what a Japanese American relationship could be kind of thing. But she like was retroactive. She was with them through and through, helping them with everything. Even got them the extra 48 hours through France or something, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But like another like thing I love too, which was an added tidbit, was like speaking English when it was necessary kind of thing, instead of being like forced to do it.
Yeah.
It was like a little added touch, and I was like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. Neat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, they were on the 15-day countdown, and then it kind of cuts to they need 3 days to get this coagulating chemical, which they discover is going to be the way to probably kill Godzilla. But they need like a whole bunch of it. They need a bunch of machinery, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, that's when they get the extension on the time, and they go out there on the front lines, our boy out there, and they have a whole plan to kind of overwhelm him, knock him out, bury him under a bunch of buildings, and inject the coagulant. And the same type of pumps that they end up using to inject the coagulant were used to pump coolant to cool down nuclear reactors after that Fukushima disaster, the nuclear disaster.
Really?
Yeah.
This film is awesome. My God.
Yeah, so it's another little like nod to
ass.
Yeah.
My God, I'm speechless when it comes to this thing. But just to touch on some other things too with the film.
Sure.
At the end of the rampaging Godzilla where he freezes, you get like a half-second shot of Godzilla's like tip of the tail, like a jaw unhinges.
Oh yeah.
Which was a very small scene, but at the end battle scene, he comes out with a tail laser, like. Another moment where I'm like, of course you're witnessing this creature's like evolution like throughout the film, but he's evolving quickly and he's just like whipping the tail around, and I'm like, again, another nerded out moment. And they're trying to gas this guy out. And another scene I like is Yaguchi, the main guy, and his like crew are just sitting there on the front lines, like you said, and the like radiation's like spiking, but he's like, no, we're gonna like sit here and we're gonna witness this creature's like end for Japan kind of thing, which I thought was really heavy.
We can't stop now, and we kind of have to do this for our country kind of thing.
Crazy.
Totally.
And I don't know if are we at the end of the film yet?
We're basically at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, Godzilla gets frozen, and he's dead, I guess.
How did you guys feel about the very last scene?
What was the very last scene?
It pans up to Godzilla's tail, and you see humanoid Godzilla creatures splitting off.
Oh! I did not understand it at all, and I was like, that looks badass.
So for that,
that's kind of mine too. My reaction.
That's supposed to be his his next form, where he adjusts his like evolution to what he can beat. And since he got beat by humans or committee again, they alluded it early in the film, but Godzilla could evolve to technically fly, which there's concept art of a flying Godzilla that was made for the film. There was a lot of like crazy designs that Higuchi and Anno wanted to use, but Toho wanted, the only stipulation is at the end of the movie he had to be like reminiscent of Godzilla. So like one of the other things was they talked about in the movie that he could split off and become another humanoid race to counteract humans attacking him. So the end of the film, at the tip, you see like these creatures that were like literally about to split off from his tail, but were frozen at the last second. I thought that was like a nice little added touch.
Yeah, that kicks ass.
Like a cliffhanger.
I just was like, that looks badass.
Yeah, I was like,
I don't know what the fuck's going on, but that's cool.
I want a tattoo of that. Like,
we'll get matching tattoos.
Yo. Let's do it.
You don't have to tell me twice.
Honestly, after seeing this movie, I would not be opposed to a Godzilla tattoo.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
It has to be specific to this movie, though.
I'm all for it.
I know. It's just going to be boardrooms.
We'll get
my favorite Godzilla movie.
A panorama of the boardroom split into thirds, and then when you hold them together, it's just one big boardroom.
We can get Godzilla /Crawl crossover Yeah.
Don't get me started on
Get
Crawl.
Godzilla and just say my main gator. Now that's funny. Yeah. I was kind of like, once he was frozen, I was like, is he though? I don't know. I was just waiting for him to pop back up, you know?
A la Godzilla 1998, I was waiting for baby Godzillas.
Yeah,
well, apparently
to come out of the womb.
That Godzilla is not really dead. He's just frozen for a long period of time. And they were supposed to talk into doing sequels because, like,
wait, the Shin Godzilla or 1998?
Oh, I wish 98, but Shin Godzilla.
Okay.
I think
just gotta check.
They said like Shin Godzilla was frozen for Japan had like an X amount of years to prepare for when he wakes up again, but they were supposed to do sequels for the movie, but Hideki Anno was supposed to do the last Evangelion movie, which is still in hiatus because of COVID-19, the scourge of the universe.
Okay.
So the sequel's pushed off.
Yeah,
because of
there's not they're not even sure if they're going to do it anymore because those two guys, Higuchi and Anno, are doing like an Ultraman movie. So if they do a sequel, sick. I have like all the faith in the world for them to do like a good one. But if not, this movie ended in a way where it's like a nice, like, it's not too much of a cliffhanger where you're just like bummed out that you didn't get an answer. It's like a nice like bow tie.
No, yeah. This is a great standalone movie, and it's still like incredibly relevant years later.
For sure.
Totally.
There's not that many years later, but it's like relevant to this year.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, it's timeless that way.
Yeah. Holds up, because governments, guess what? They'll always be bullshit.
the theme of
people,
Godzilla.
they'll always be dying.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to me because like the only two films that criticized the government was like the first and Shin Godzilla, and the rest of them,
And they're like 60 years apart.
Yeah. The rest of the Godzilla films usually use Godzilla or the government as like the savior. Like, we built this giant robot Godzilla, or we have these weapons to attack Godzilla or something like that. And the only two films to be really like critical of them are like my two favorites, which I think speaks volumes to the franchise, I guess.
Hell yeah.
What a good flick.
Ugh, I loved it.
So we basically rolled the creds.
I got some fun facts.
You got facts?
Yeah, they're more like post-movie, like little fun Easter things.
Boy, spill those facts.
All right. The first time America tried to get movie rights to do a Godzilla movie was back in 83 and 84. Mm-hmm. This was the director of Friday the 13th, Part 2 and 3. Coming off those movies, he wanted to do a Godzilla movie for $100 million, which in the 80s was like no bueno. And so there was supposed to be an American Godzilla movie made then, but it didn't happen. So subsequently, Toho...
$100 million?
In the 80s, which is like wild.
In the 80s.
Like, this guy's coming off Friday the 13th asking for that kind of money? Come on, dude.
Wow.
But a year later, after those rights fall through, Toho's like, you know what? After, like, I think almost a decade of not making Godzilla movie, they make a Godzilla movie, I don't know, in spite of America, but just made one to resurrect the series, and that was Godzilla 1985. So that kind of theme returns again, where Godzilla is made into, finally gets its American release in 1998 with the Godzilla 1998 movie, which was hated.
Your fave?
Yeah, well, yes, I love the movie, but was hated in Japan. Like, Japan absolutely like hates that creature because it took everything about Godzilla and like cast it aside. Like, the directors didn't like the tall, stocky nature of like a fire-breathing beast. He wanted him to be like a ferocious reptile that's like hunted the city or something. So Japan, being pissed on that, came in, I think 5 years later, after saying Godzilla versus Destroya, which was in 95, I think, was going to be the last Godzilla film. After that 98 movie, Japan was like, are you serious? Like, you're going to like sour the Godzilla name? They came out with Godzilla 2000 a year after Godzilla 98 to reboot the franchise again, in which they continued to 2004, which that was Godzilla Final Wars. I know your favorite. That was supposed to end the franchise for good.
It rules.
10 years later, a decade later, Legendary gets the rights to another Godzilla release, which was Godzilla 2014. That movie comes out, which is actually like well received mostly in Japan because at least they did justice to the character. But what was funny again was Japan 2 years later comes out with their own Godzilla movie, Shin Godzilla. So like Toho, which not only that Legendary Godzilla in 2014 was supposed to be the tallest Godzilla ever, but when Shin Godzilla came out, Toho was like, you know what, this guy's gonna be 20 meters taller than yours, so we can have the tallest Godzilla again.
That rules.
So it's like
rules.
Toho is like wants to, it's like the ultimate dick measuring contest between two studios.
Yeah.
Which was like funny to me, but like at least I know in good faith that if America makes another Godzilla movie, 1 or 2 years later they're going to make another one. So in probably 2023 we'll get Shin Godzilla 2 or something. So you heard it here, folks.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
That's my fun facts.
Boy, wow. Fun facts by Zach. I wish that we had a song for that.
I'll do a little segment for every one of your pods. I'll just come out with movie fun facts.
Thank you.
Hell yeah. So what do we rate this out of 5?
Zach, you go first.
I mean, I feel like mine's pretty guessable.
Yeah.
Like, I'll give it a 5 out of 5. I think for being the pinnacle of Godzilla films and actually being, in general, a great movie, I feel like it earned that. It'll get my favorite movie of all time award, too.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
Oh,
I'll give it the crown.
Now that's heavy.
If Hideki Anno
Sick.
becomes problematic, I will lose my mind.
I'm going to be right there alongside you. I initially would say this movie is 4.5, but after dissecting it and hearing all about it, and it's 5 stars. This movie is incredible.
I'm not on camera, but I got fist pumps going on right now.
It is such, like, it totally took me for a loop. This movie, and this is the ultimate, like, I just trusted that it would all make sense, that it would all come together, and you kind of have to do that because there is a lot that goes into it that you almost don't need. There is, like, I'd call it like necessary fat, because like we talked earlier about the showing of the government officials' titles. Not necessarily necessary,
Fun
but like
fluff.
yeah, but like it does it gave me something to grasp onto, whether the director intended that or not.
And if you can follow it, I mean, like Zach said, there is like some humor in it as well. It's just hard, like when we're also trying to read subtitles and like follow everything that's going on in a different language. It's hard to keep up with some of it. Yeah.
This stuff gets lost in translation, obviously.
I think this movie too has probably like some of the best like actual like human characters. That like Godzilla's weakest parts in his like franchise was having compelling like characters. Like I can't tell you a movie in the entire franchise from 54 on that had like a character I remember. I think the only one I can remember is Mr. Worm Doctor Matthew Broderick in the 98 movie, and that's not even like a Japanese film. But in this movie, like there's so many like little nuanced characters, like the nerd scientist lone wolf girl. She was amazing in the film. The American Japanese ambassador, the main guy, the towel guy who had a towel around his neck the entire time and solved the origami puzzle to Godzilla's DNA structure. There's just like so many like memorable characters. Like
I loved the agriculture minister. He was time.
I felt so bad for him. He didn't want that job.
At one point he says
my ramen got soggy.
Yeah, that was it. He's just so bummed out that he has to be prime minister, and it's hilarious.
We stand soggy ramen guy.
Great. Yeah. I'm also going to give this movie 5 stars, gotta say.
I gotta say this warms my heart, because going into this I was second guessing myself. Like I saw your Instagram comment saying go watch the film, I liked it, and I'm like, good, they at least like it, but like 5 stars across the board. I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna sleep well at night with this.
No, this is incredible.
Yeah, I wish I knew this movie existed sooner. I'm glad that I know it exists now. And I thought it would be cool to do a Godzilla movie with you anyway, because I know you're a Godzilla genius.
I love that.
It's always fun, like, so, behind the scenes here for the audience. But whenever I'm asking guests to be on the pod, like, I'll usually say, like, either you can suggest a movie or here's my list if you just want to pick something off of it. And most of the time, people are just picking something off my list. Sometimes they suggest stuff, but it just, when you're picking stuff off of my list, I like a certain type of movie. So we end up watching movies that are similar genre and things like that. So when a guest suggests something that would be outside of the box from what we typically would pick for ourselves, I think that's really fun. And I think this falls in that category is what I'm getting at.
I'm glad you picked this movie too. Because I sent you another Godzilla movie, which was the recent King of the Monsters movie.
Yeah.
And
I saw that one in theaters.
Yeah, that would have been, for me at least, because I know some people like it, that would have been a totally different like conversation, because like
Do you hate
I
it?
did not like the movie. And
I didn't like it either.
It was, for me, it was like, it had everything I should love, but
I mean, there was like cool people in it and stuff. Like Thomas Middleditch is in that one, right?
Yeah.
And like I love him.
But yeah, like I feel like tonal wise, like that film was like did not know what it wanted to be. It wanted to be a blockbuster MCU style.
No, and it was like really dark, and I didn't like that one really. I was disappointed by that one in theaters.
I'm glad you didn't pick that one.
I know, I'm glad too. But yeah, I watched the trailer for this one when he sent it over and thought it looked so cool. So
Yay.
yeah.
I love it.
Great pick.
Yeah, so badass.
We all loved. We'd all recommend. This is a solid 5 stars
watch
across
it.
the board. That's rare for us.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's ever happened.
I feel like it must have happened maybe once.
I mean, you and I have had across the board, but with a guest, I don't
But
know.
this is like episode 48. So
Yeah.
it's rare.
I feel wonderful right now. I like to thank the Godzilla franchise for offering this.
Now it's time for ScreenVomit. So in this part of the podcast, we just chat about whatever else we've been watching, TV, movies, whatever else. So, Collie, what have you been watching?
I tell you what I watched that is a hard recommend from me.
Yeah.
Is 2003's Mr. Deeds.
Oh my
with
god.
Adam Sandler. I watched it recently and I love it. It's amazing. I had a ball watching it. It's so good. It's funny. All the jokes are mostly funny.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The butler is very sneaky. The whole movie.
I need to add that to my list. I have never seen it.
I seriously recommend Mr. Deeds. It's very funny.
This is such a
and
Colin
heartfelt.
pick.
So far, I got How Did This Get Made episode with Kevin Smith and Mr. Deeds.
Wow, giving solid recs to our friend here today.
Yeah, that's
it for you?
Let me consult. Lindsay, what other movies have we watched? I watched Curtains, a horror movie. Oh shit. Lindsay wrote down the movies we've watched because I don't remember them. But we watched this movie called Platform that's on Netflix.
Oh my.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
I don't know what this is.
Incredible. Kayla, I wouldn't mind doing an ep on it.
Okay, I'll add it to the list. What is it? Tell me about it.
What
Is that the Spanish movie?
is it? Spanish? Is that what it's in?
I know
it's
they did
foreign
it
language.
dubbed, but it's like the one where it's like
Yeah.
a tier like
It's-
based thing.
Yes.
Wait, platform?
People live.
Oh,
Yes.
2020? No.
2020?
It was like 2019, 2020. It was
Yeah,
very
Okay,
recent.
there are just a lot of movies called Platform, turns out. Found it.
Basically, really just like
El Hoyo,
outstanding class critique.
a jail movie.
Yeah. Basically, jail. I don't even know how to describe it in a succinct way.
Well, this
tripping over my
this little
words.
like synopsis I'm seeing on Letterboxd.
Yeah, give me it.
Well, I guess I can just read the whole thing. A mysterious place, an indescribable prison, a deep hole, an unknown number of levels, 2 inmates living on each level. Oh man, I should have read
Yes.
this like Zach.
Send it to me. I'll keep reading whatever you want.
A descending platform containing food for all of them, an inhuman fight for survival, but also an opportunity for solidarity. ...
Yes. Outstanding.
I'll add it to the list.
Shocking. But so fucking good. And then Lindsay and I watched House of a Thousand Corpses the other
Oh
night.
God, how was that?
It's a mixed bag. I tell you what, the first half is really good. It's good. It's like compelling enough. The characters are decent enough. It seems all good, but then once the murders start happening, it's kind of clunky. Doesn't totally all add up. Blech.
Yeah.
Rob Zombie at his finest.
Rob Zombie, when he
Yeah.
first started coming out with movies, I feel like they were such like a huge, it was such a huge moment like in the horror scene.
Totally.
But going back and watching Rob Zombie movies now, you're like, what
They're
the
not
fuck?
great.
They are trash.
The only one I like is the Halloween remake.
Really.
I rewatched the Halloween remakes last year, and his remakes of them, bad.
They
Hated it.
blow. Yeah, they blow.
Okay. I have not rewatched them since they initially came out.
I think you got to do the rewatch because I remember watching it when
no.
they came out. Or maybe don't do it if you don't want to ruin it. Because I remember watching them
It's
when
like
they came out
09.
in the theaters and being like, yo, this is so sick. But I rewatched last year and I was like, this is trash. Why did I like this movie? I met Dag Fairch, the little kid who plays Mike Myers in the first one. when he's a
Oh,
little
really?
blonde kid.
Oh
I
my
met
God.
this kid.
I knew you were going to bring your horror con life into this.
Halloween Part 2 for the longest time was my worst movie of all time.
Really?
Wow.
The
It's
Rob
bad.
Zombie one, because it was so atrocious.
Yeah.
Oh, the Rob Zombie. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, not the
I
original
was
one.
like, the original
but-
one's a hot take, but
Yeah, Part 2 Halloween Rob Zombie remake. It was like, I remember, like, I can handle like swear words in movie and stuff. Like I like a normal human
Yeah.
being.
Yeah.
But the amount he shoehorns in
It's really
the dialogue
bad.
alone,
It's edgelord.
it's for real.
It's
It's
like,
like 4chan message
Yeah.
board puked onto a script or something.
that sounds like Hellboy that came out last year.
Really? I didn't watch it.
I refuse to see that.
It was rough. I walked out of it.
Really?
Yeah, I got bored,
Oh, man.
and it was a late showing, and I left. Anyway, that's what I've been watching. Not Hellboy.
Zaki, what you been watching?
I'm bad with remembering too, so I'm just trying to think.
What show are you on? You watching any shows?
I just finished watching The Boys,
Okay.
which I
Okay.
absolutely love. It's on
Yeah.
Amazon Prime.
I started it, but I didn't get very far.
Yeah, I got to give it another go.
I'm not one
Yeah.
for TV shows. I'm
Okay.
true to the definition of a weeb, so I mostly watch like anime and
Okay.
stuff. So if that ruins my opinion on things, whatever.
No, it
But
doesn't.
I
You're a
watched The
smart
Boys.
genius. All right,
Oh,
you got us
shucks.
beat.
You're just tooting my horn right now. But The Boys are just like a nice. I don't want to say it's a commentary, but it's like a nice like foil to like the MCU and stuff, like a behind
Yeah.
the scenes of like how do like superheroes even make their money, or what kind of political games do they play.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. It's the only superhero thing I had my fiance actually likes, so that was a win for me.
Wait,
Nice.
you got a fiance too?
I have a fiance too. She's actually in the other room, and
Zach's big boy. Zach's got a fiance. Zach, do you own a house?
yeah, I'm in it. I'm
Wait,
living in.
what?
The
You
boy's
own a
crazy.
house?
And he's young. How old are you,
What
Zach?
the hell?
27.
Okay, shut
See?
up. I'm
I
27.
know.
I still rent like a chump.
I don't know how I like. I feel like really, I guess, quote
All
unquote,
right,
lucky when it comes to this.
episode
But
is over.
don't listen to the homeowner. But when I
Collie's
went
too
when I went
jealous.
pee, I was like, Tiff, the episode's going really good. I'm not nervous. Everything's going well, and she gave me the thumbs up.
Good
So
job.
I feel good.
No, you're doing great.
Yeah, this has been great. But we're still going. Go ahead.
I recently rewatched. She's been recommending me horror because we picked out a stack of horror movies to watch, and so like I picked out my artsy fartsy films, and she picked out her stuff. And so we started with the Exorcism of Emily Rose,
Oh, God.
Okay.
which I could not get through.
One of the worst movies I've ever seen.
All right, because her and her mom said it was really good, and I'm like, all right. I mean, that's two opinions, and I couldn't get through like an hour of it because
Is that the one? I might have this wrong. Is that the one that's like a mockumentary, or am I thinking of something else?
No, it's like a courtroom horror, literally.
Okay. I don't know what I'm thinking of.
Um,
Oh, The Last
like-
Exorcism, maybe? I'm
I
just
think-
trying to
I think,
Google
I think
shit.
that's right.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I think this is it. What I'm thinking of. Go ahead. Sorry.
That was pretty good. And we
Yeah.
also watched the 2005 Amityville Horror with Ryan Reynolds.
Oh,
Okay,
man.
yeah.
I love that bad movie.
Where I wasn't prepared to have abusive Ryan Reynolds on my screen.
Yeah.
But it was all right. It wasn't like... I mean, there's
choice.
one scene I absolutely detested where it was like he takes an axe to his wife's stomach, but it was just a really quick like flashback scene for whatever reason. And I was like, oh, come on. Just commit to the killing, I guess.
Yeah. It's no good.
The one movie I wanted to recommend as far as like found footage, it's not so much a found footage, but it's like those lost tape kind of movies.
Yeah, yeah.
Is Antrum. Have you guys heard of that?
Lost
have not.
footage.
No. So
Antrum?
it's a mockumentary like horror film.
Okay.
It's very like divisive. Like not too many people, not too.
How do you spell this? I'm trying to look it up.
Antrum. It's called the deadliest film ever made.
Okay, I
But
see it.
basically, it starts off as a mockumentary where it's like if you watch this film, something bad will happen to you, kind of thing. And I
Okay.
didn't tell my fiance that that was obviously fake, and she believed it, and she was very like spooked out by it. But we get through the movie, and it's just basically people going like, "Yeah, we're actually going to show you this movie. This is what happened," and like quote unquote real life like occurrences and events that happen when they screen the film. But we watched the movie. It's really neat. I liked it. It had like a lot of like great imagery. I mean, the film
Yeah.
itself is very light. but I just liked a lot of the occult stuff they brought. Cool. I like when like horror films at least are not afraid to push boundaries, I guess. Even if it like ends up sucking really bad, I still like will admire like, hey, this movie is very heavily satanic or something like that. I like that. Not to say I'm a Satanist or anything or whatever, but I liked like all the added imagery and stuff.
You can be a Satanist.
Yeah.
So we also followed that movie up with Scoob, which, believe it or not, Scoob in this movie has a lot of very, very similar plots. So Antrum's about a group of kids
get the hell out of here
that try to get a lost dog back from hell, and they encounter Cerberus along the way. So Scoob...
Oh my god, Cerberus is in Scoob.
Yeah. Scoob is about a group of kids that encounter a guy who's trying to get his lost dog out of hell and encounter Cerberus along the way. So when you follow Antrum up, a horror movie, with a movie, like a cursed movie, with a kid's movie about the same exact thing, we were losing our minds. Like, we were like, all right, is this movie actually cursed kind of thing? I did not like Scoob, by the way, but...
Okay, not a Scoob fan.
I'm a diehard Scooby-Doo fan, but Scoob, I don't know. Maybe it was just the tonal similarities with Antrum, a horror film that was like, come on, come up with something with original, JK.
Yeah, come on. Make a more original Scooby-Doo movie. We need more new ones.
All direct-to-video WWE Scooby-Doo movies.
Oh, I would love to watch one of those, actually.
Hell yeah.
And that's all I can remember. I usually do quick little Facebook review movie things, and I have a list, but I'm afraid to get out of my voice memos thing on my iPhone right now, so that's what I remember.
Sick. What have I been watching? I was actually on former guest Candace's podcast we recorded. I don't know when it'll be out. It's not out yet. And for that podcast, I rewatched Serial Mom and The Orphanage, which are both incredible movies on opposite vibes.
I need to rewatch The Orphanage. Isn't that a Spanish horror film?
Yes, and actually both of these movies are some of my favorite movies of all time. The Orphanage, historically, I've just said is my favorite horror movie of all time. Between The Orphanage and Martyrs are my favorite horror movies of all time. Serial Mom is a John Waters film. It's from the 90s. It's got fucking Ricky Lake. It's Matthew Lillard's first movie.
Shaggy.
It's incredible. It's like about a, like, you know, your classic suburban housewife mom who just turns into a serial killer. And it's pretty sick. And it's very campy, fun. There's one joke in it that doesn't hold up, I would say, but for being a movie from 1999, it extremely holds up, and it's just really fun movie to watch, really fun horror movie. And The Orphanage, 2007. It's produced by Guillermo del Toro. It's in Spanish. It's just incredible movie, very emotional. It's scary, but it's not like, there's nothing like shock value or like jump scare or like nothing cheap about it. Like, it's very real and emotional and just an incredible film.
Hell yeah.
So good. And as far as TV shows, because you know I always got a show going, I caught up on Superstore.
Oh, okay. I like
Have
that
y'all
show,
seen
actually.
this?
I usually see it like on TV from time to time, but it seems like really like, it's like an Office style kind of thing, right?
It's supposed to be solid, right?
Sorta, yeah. It's like actually, initially when I heard about this show years ago, because it's like on season 5 now, so I've been watching this for a while, but I was kind of put off by the premise, but they actually do it really well. So it is like basically follows the employees of essentially a Walmart. They call it something else in the show, but essentially it's Walmart employees and just whatever shenanigans they deal with on day to day. But they do it really well, and like the cast is really interesting. Like, it feels like real people, you know what I mean? Like, and they have people who actually look like humans, which is always nice because you don't really see that a lot. And there's queer storylines and everything. Of course, it's very diverse cast. And in the most recent season, which is what I just caught up on, they're unionizing, which Collie, I thought you would like.
Yeah.
So I finished that. That show's like just a fun romp. They're like 20-minute episodes, and it's fun. It does go through some serious stuff. Like, they do deal with, like, one of the employees has like an ice interaction, or I don't know, different things like that. So they do like kind of interject some real stuff in there, which I think is really cool. I love when you can trick a mainstream audience into taking on real issues.
Totally, yeah.
And then I started watching Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Which I had never
Same.
seen, even though it's been on TV for 20
I
years.
need to watch it too.
Oh, it's so good.
So I started from the top.
There's some stuff.
I didn't realize that it came out in the year 2000.
Yeah, like right as Seinfeld ended, pretty much, he just like jumped into Curb.
There is some stuff that does not hold up, but there's some, some funny stuff that goes on. Larry David kind of reminds me of somebody I used to date, so sometimes I have a little PTSD from it. And I don't always like, some of the episodes are kind of that like, oh, if you would just listen to what I'm saying, there would be no issue here, but instead we're both just yelling at each other and they're like creating a bigger and bigger issue kind of thing. I don't always love that.
Sure. Just like stress for stress's sake, almost.
Yeah. If you can make it into a story, okay. But if it's just stress because nobody will listen to each other, I don't know. That just stresses me out, and I don't like that.
I understand.
So that's my review of Curb. I just started season 3, so that's where I'm at currently.
It's good to have another perspective on Curb, because I mostly had my perspective formed from wrestling podcasts, which is like weird. Like,
oh yeah,
hearing like wrestlers talk about their like Sami Zayn talking about how much they like Curb and stuff like that. Which is just funny.
Yeah.
I just really just wanted to find a way to tail it back to wrestling.
Beautiful.
I mean, it's like one of those shows that gets referenced by people and shows and everything all the time.
Without
I feel
a
like.
doubt.
I mean, it has been on for 20 years, so but
it's a top show for me. It's a top 5 show for me, probably.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep watching. It's a pretty like mindless show to watch.
You can
too.
miss
so like
episodes.
if you don't want to feel anything, you can probably go in anywhere.
Yes,
and
mostly.
At least as far as like I'm in season 3 now, as I said. I feel like I could have missed any episode and it wouldn't really affect anything going on.
They start having more season-long arcs and through lines.
I mean, there are some up to this point. There are some, but you still could have missed it and you'd probably still be fine.
Yeah, without a doubt. I love it. Such an easy show to watch.
It is. It's just very easy and light, and that was cool after I've been watching some heavier stuff before this, I think. So that's what I've been watching.
Hell yeah.
Neat.
Zachy, what kind of plugs you got?
Not
Anything?
too much. I Have Fun Records is on hiatus for the time being, just so I can like I kind of like burnt myself out, but recently Dr. Manhattan and I worked together on doing like a Black Lives Matter fundraiser using their release, and we donated all the proceeds to the Chicago Freedom School and the bailout fund, the National Bailout Fund, which was really cool. We raised like more money than I ever thought.
Like thousands of dollars, right?
Yeah, it was surreal. It was really like, it was the first time I was like, all right, I'm cool. Not to make it all about me, but it was like really, really cool that Nick from Dr. Manhattan and I got together and we put that together, and that was really cool.
We're going to get Nick on the pod one of these days.
Yeah. I love that.
We've been in talks, I would say, since we started the pod.
I looked at the guests and I was like, so I'm following up like a legit actor, another legit actor, TJ from House Olympics, like all these people. And I'm like, and resident Godzilla nerd Zach comes on and I'm like, all right, I'm going to try to make the most of it, I guess.
Oh, come on. You're cool too.
But on Instagram, I'm somewhat functioning. That's the username.
That's the username, not a description of your Instagram usage.
I mean, true. It's just mostly like toys and stuff. On Twitter, A Patient Boy, which is whatever. That's a lyric from Fugazi and Taking Back Sunday.
That's Fugazi. Yeah.
So that's me.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Follow Zach.
Hey, I got a freaking plug.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you want to plug your plugs.
Yeah. I just got one.
Go ahead.
So I am working on a podcast with a friend of mine who I used to do a wrestling podcast with.
Wait, is your wrestling podcast over?
Yeah, we did. It was called Bizarro Cult, and it was specifically about the Bizarro Lucha promotion in Indianapolis. It's complicated. It probably won't come back.
Okay.
Yeah. So we pivoted and are now talking about our other favorite thing in common besides wrestling, which is labor organizing and creating direct action in your workplace, and mostly how much we just loathe how work is set up currently. Our podcast is called How to Fire Your Boss. Ooh. Yeah, I love it. It's fun to record. We just recorded yesterday a whole thing about Joe Biden's labor platform and how it sounds
great, but will likely not be enacted.
We should
upon
say
at all.
for the listeners who don't know Collie personally, Collie's about to go to damn law school to be the law boy at law on workers shit. What is it?
Yeah,
What's the right way to say that?
That was pretty accurate.
Basically, I'm going to study labor law.
There you go.
Little nugget about me. My ultimate dream would be to work alongside wrestlers in organizing.
Ooh, yeah.
That's like the ultimate
The
dream.
rising Andrew Yang movement against the contracted workers thing.
It makes me so happy. It's the first time I've loved Andrew Yang, which is weird.
Yeah, same.
But it's so cool to see like Paige tweeted out about like just read about organizing, and I'm just like, is something actually going to happen? We could talk about wrestling all day. That news about wrestling though is crazy about them not being able to do Twitch anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I can go on about that as well, but
yeah,
We can do that after recording.
yeah. How to Fire Your Boss. Thank you.
Yes, find Collie's other podcast on all the things. And you can find this current podcast on Instagram and everywhere else at ScreenVomit on all the things. One word. Subscribe. Leave us a freaking 5-star review, please, on whatever, Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. Send us an email at screenvomitpod@gmail.com with your thoughts on this movie or other movies. Suggest a movie. Talk to us, babies. Next week, we'll be watching Lizzie, starring Chloe Sevigny and Kay Stu, which is going to be very fun.
I love them.
And yeah, so should be cool. That's all for us. So thanks, Zach, for joining us.
I love it. I'm glad I didn't. The last podcast I did, I feel like I was a nervous wreck, but now I feel empowered by the Godzilla knowledge I have in my brain. So
You gassed up?
I'm gassed up. Let's go.
Hell yeah.
That jock energy.
And on that note, bye.
Bye.
Neat.